Most event pros put on first-class events on coach budgets. The trick? Be maniacal about the humans in the room.
Welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we share stories and strategies to turn any event or life moment into something unforgettable.
Events are wild, and the people who work in them are some of the most resilient humans on Earth. If you know, you know.
So come with us behind the curtain for a look at their most memorable experiences.
As they say, the show must go on, so let's get on with the show.
Welcome back to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we celebrate the humans behind the hustle, the event pros, producers, and storytellers making magic from the spreadsheets.
I love a good spreadsheet. And today we're geeking out on brain science, storytelling, and the psychology of experiences with someone who's made a career out of connecting people from boardrooms to Vegas ballrooms.
Kristen Graham, also known as one of my besties, is where brain science meets word nerd. It doesn't get nerdier than her, folks. After more than 25 years leading culture, communications, and events at companies like Expedia and Amazon, to name a few, she now runs Unlock the Brain, a platform that helps smart but busy people do fewer things better. On stage or on mic, she turns science into stories that stick. So get ready for insights on attention, emotion, and why Dolly Parton should probably be the patron saint of corporate events.
Plus, we're diving into stories from Navy Pier to Vegas, event chaos to compassion, and we'll wrap with a little event crimes and misdemeanors.
Ooh, welcome to the show, Kristen Graham, word nerd.
I'm so excited, and I did sign the 14-page legal notice, so let's go.
Okay,
let's
awesome.
do it.
Well, people should already be familiar with you because you are one of our regulars on the Fun Table. So if you are new to this podcast, we do a monthly series called The Fun Table. It's exactly like it sounds. It's the fun table. You know, there's always a fun table at every party.
Or elevator or hallway or wherever the party comes.
Yeah, also that.
Yes.
So let's go. We don't have to go all the way back to where were you born? What's your astrology sign? We don't need to do any of that. But what first pulled you into the events world? When did you realize this was a place for you?
I love that question because I think most of us look backwards in our career and find that we were accidentally strategic in it, or that it's always been part of our element. And for a lot of us, especially anyone who puts a nerd behind whatever moniker they want, mine just happens to be words, you start to see what you originally thought was like a personality trait was actually a skill set. And both communication and events, whether it's behind the scenes or in front of it, was always something that I gravitated towards. But from a professional perspective, it was, I think, my second job out of school. I was working for the Pampered Chef, which for anyone out there who still has those kitchen tools.
Apple cutter for the win.
Cheese grater.
I still use the pizza
We got
cutter.
a lot of them. Yeah.
It's real. And at the time, it was a woman-owned, family-run business. And the sales consultants, which is what they were called, who would host in-home kitchen parties, if they earned enough in the course of the year, they could do all these incentive trips. And that is also part of the event. So they could come to Chicago, which is where the Pampered Chef is based, and come into Navy Pier. So for all of my events professionals, there are ballrooms and hotel rooms and corporate rooms. And then there are huge venues like that. If you've ever been to Chicago, it's literally a huge ballroom at the end of this pier, which also means, wait for it, it's union run. As most of the huge ones can be. So as a first-time nerd, I was doing their newsletter and a few other things. But as I got the reputation in-house for being decent with words, and they said, can you write a speech for our vice president of sales? So not only is she incredibly intimidating, well put together, Australian, so the accent alone was remarkable. They wanted me to write her words. And so as I did that, I learned that I had the skill for conversational communications, which still did not prepare me for walking into Navy Pier. So all you see around you is Lake Michigan, all the lights, all the whiz of everything. Dolly Parton blaring as 3,000 very excitable people come in. And then this woman, her name is Jan, takes the stage and starts speaking my words in front of 3,000 people live. And I got to watch not just the energy that music brings and everything curated, the lighting, the agenda, everything, but then to hear my thoughts that became words that were in somebody else's mouth, it just changed the way. It was one of those chills moments. You were like, I kind of got hooked on events at that moment.
That's so cool.
Wow.
And she loved your speech, obviously, because she gave it to that crowd of thousands of people.
I'm a former journalist, so you're used to kind of having words out there. You might get a byline, but it's never about credit.
Mm-hmm.
And so speech writing in that moment, or corporate communications, or sometimes events, as I think we can all relate to, it's not you can see your fingerprint on everything, but not necessarily your name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of what sets really good events producers apart. It's the fact that you make it about who's experiencing what you're creating instead of the shine and glory for yourself.
That's so true. That's so true, because if you were to ask me about any of the most amazing events I've attended over the years, I can tell you what they were, where they were, the theme, what I wore, but I couldn't tell you who produced it. Unless it was Libby Sundgren, of course.
And I want to, saying all that with great humility, I also want to acknowledge those listening to say, you can also tell the signature of really amazing professionals. So you can walk in and be like, that hits, that's different. And as somebody who has been to Alysse and Libby events, for me, it's the difference between staying in a hotel and staying in a suite, being in coach or being in first class. It's the little things that people with the great eye know change an experience without blowing a budget.
It's so true. We are first class all the way.
We really
sometimes we're
are.
coach.
Really are.
I mean, everyone does a coach event at some point. Even if you're very experienced, you slip into a coach event.
To be clear, though, most event professionals put on first class events on coach budgets. So it can be done. It's really about being maniacal about looking after who's there and what's needed. And the little things turn into big things when done right.
Which sidebar, I heard a really good, analytical question for event producers to ask clients when they are cutting budgets. You know, when they do expect a first class event on a coach budget or on a budget that's even more coach than the year before. But to ask, what can you let go of? What can we cut if this is your budget? So, because something will.
What were some of the answers? I'm curious.
Well, that was the main. No, that was the question. That was the answer.
Oh,
yeah. The question was the answer. Trick.
okay.
Surprise.
I love that though. I actually have a thought on that if we get to it.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Tell us.
So one of the elements that I've come to see in using brain science, but also psychology of events, is there's a lot more that we can do in less. So the headline there is a really good event, and it could be a corporate conversation, or it could be a wedding, or it could be a funeral service. It's in the space of leave them wanting more. I think in our desire to create big experiences, we make them too long. And if you're really looking to trim budgets, but upgrade experiences, have there be shorter. I talk a lot about brain snacks. I think of that too as experiences. Have them be shorter, more meaningful connection points that are come and go. This is not the hard and fast start and stop. It is something that people choose to consume because when it's on their terms, they're going to psychologically remember it with more affinity. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of events do more of is less alcohol and more small signature elements. So alcohol is always a huge component for budgets, which is why I mentioned that. But the other things that I've seen, I was at something recently where towards the end on the high tops, they had postcards. And they said, fill out a postcard to somebody who means something to you. Leave it here in this box and we will put it in the mail. So they swapped some big dessert thing for a moment of gratitude. Then all they did was take the first class postage. But it was such a event forward moment. And I think the more we make things matter instead of make them expensive, it's going to change the game for the better.
I love that idea. A sweet moment
really
instead of a
cute one.
sweet treat. That's really clever.
Really cute. Really
Well said,
cute.
Libby.
You just might not know their physical address. So you have to have a way for them to follow up and say, hey, this is actually.
That was
but
the
I mean,
other thing,
everyone
too.
should have a phone with Google, but whatever.
Well, no, I'm with you on that. I can't even remember my children's phone number if I don't physically look at the phone. The other thing that they had said around that was if you can't remember, then send one to yourself.
Oh,
Or at the very
that's
least,
nice.
send one to a parent or a family member, which was really neat.
Yeah. I love
Question: Can you guys remember your first home phone number?
Absolutely.
that. 541-278-2169. You can still call Jean Kindle at that line. She's there.
Wow. Hi, Jane.
Pendleton, Oregon.
So back in the Stone Age, I don't remember having the area code, but I do know the primary number, 928-6528.
Excellent.
What about you, Alysse?
360-736-2347. When you call it, say hello, Jerry and Rochelle.
Leave a little
It's
fan note.
still your parents'
Send a
number. I
little
love
love
it.
note.
Yes, and it's still an answering machine, which always goes off because they can't get to the phone in time, to which I say, don't worry, I'll call you back, so that the whole conversation isn't recording. It
Right,
happens
yes.
every single time.
I
I
mean-
love you guys. I love you guys. Okay, when you talk about brain science meeting communication, what's a behavior or a pattern that event pros overlook that affects how people truly feel about an experience?
So a few things. First is clarity is kindness for your attendees. When you're coming to an event and you still have questions, it creates anxiety. And again, in our quest to be helpful, we end up sending too much information parsed out. So I'm a big fan of a single point of information, a reference repository where you can update with Q&A, et cetera. So people have the link that they can go back to versus spamming with here's everything that you need to know. I was recently at an event where that became one of the key, it was 1,000 people moving through a giant thing. And they said, just too much email. I didn't know which one to look at. And I'm standing outside ballrooms, click, click, click. I know some events are starting to solve that with apps. So however technology can make it more simple as a single source of truth for attendees, I think that really matters, including the analog QR codes, hard copy signs. Don't cut down on that, because when you're fresh in a space, you need to know you need an actual arrow to tell you which way to go to the restroom. It's a new and unfamiliar territory for people when they're going into an event. They come in psychologically different and their brain is seeking everything is new, trying to make sense of it. So the communication from a digital to a physical presence actually matters.
Libby, I feel like you do a really good job in this area with your communication with events on like the day before, specifically with
thanks.
parking. With parking, you crush it with parking. Mm-hmm.
Well, in Seattle, parking can be rough and expensive depending on where you are. So I always find that very helpful to tell people
And stressful.
exactly where they can park. It just takes away, especially because I feel like now, you're trying to do a million things at once. You're just trying to get there. You don't want to have to get there an hour early in order to find a place to park. If you don't tell people, they won't know. And then they're going to be an hour late to your event. And then the first hour is going to be quiet and weird. And nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not just parking, right? It's how do people do transportation? Where would a Uber or Lyft be able to drop you off? Where are the local bus and rail stations? It's really anticipating questions before they're asked. And I think it was the very first event I went to with the magical Alysse Bryson, which was at this phenomenal restaurant in one of the best in Seattle called Canlis. And one of the things that they are known for is how they handle parking, valet parking at the ends. Because at any event, there's the rush, right, of the parking and how do I get in there and when is the program going to start? But then there's also that, should I leave early so I can get my car and get to, if it's valet or parking garage? And this venue was just well known for the fact that there were no car tickets. They just paid really close attention. So when you walked out, your car was already pulled up. And it was, gosh, Alysse, that had to be at least 15 years ago. But I still remember it to this day. When you left, you left. And it was such a service provided that made you feel special, first class, but also took all that stress.
Yeah. And that is a really cool technique that they have.
Really cool. They also would know how many people were in the vehicle, because
so if you had swag bags, they'd know how many exactly
they would
to put
tuck them in the car. Yeah, so you wouldn't have to carry them. I really love this conversation because there are a lot of people out there. I never really thought about it, Kristen, from it's like helping somebody else's anxiety as they come into an event with all those answers, because I am in the camp that I won't read any of the details. Mm-hmm. And I just have gotten to rely on Libby to tell me anything important that I might need. But like, I just like everything to be surprise and delight, because I don't read any of the details. And I come in and I'm like, huh, how'd you know that? And then, oh, of course it was in the details. But I can see why that is so important for helping people transition and have a positive experience right from the very beginning.
Well, and what I would add to that, because I love how you said that, is part of my impetus for studying brain science and the potential of neuroplasticity change is because I have neurodiverse kids. They're now adult-ish. And when I was looking at the quest for information and how the brain retains it, that's what I meant earlier when I said clarity is kindness, because we know this one size fits all to how to throw an event, but we know that if we can quell a little anxiety, answer one additional question, it tips them into the yes instead of no. And I feel like, especially since COVID, social introversion, it's a very real sensation of, I want to be social, but I have anxiety or I have some resistance to it. So the easier that you can smooth the edges of social interaction, the more likely you are to have attendees. And I think on the other side of it, the best events are the ones where people come away feeling that they had a good time, not that it was a great event. That's the gift with purchase, is when, especially think of it where it's a seated element. And we've all done that too, the mix of who goes where and who sits. You want them to walk away feeling like, that was really fun, instead of what table do I sit at and that new kid in school sensation. So not over-engineering everything, but having space for people to relax into what you have so carefully planned.
That's really smart. You talk a lot about clarity being kindness, which I heard a few years back. The person that delivered it, I don't think delivered it very well. So I didn't appreciate the phrase, but I do now. Before you started talking about it, I did come to appreciate it and really understand it. But how, clarity is kindness, but how do you communicate clarity under those chaotic event moments? You've had years of leading teams and producing events, and how do you maintain that sense of clarity when there are a million things happening and there is, some kind of disaster, a fire in the kitchen, whatever?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yes to all of that. I think that clarity and kindness and leadership all start from small steps to begin with. When I'm at any type of event now, and I was just at a huge one on a very large campus, sponsored by a big tech company, but they were just hosting the space. But it's still, you've got all the dynamic security people, check-ins, et cetera, the AV in the back. One of the things that I always do now, especially when I'm either on stage or as an MC or facilitator or even behind the scenes, I come in with a whole bunch of Starbucks cards. It can be any coffee or local store of your choosing. And I give them to all the behind the scenes people. And I just say, this is going to be a lot of adrenaline. So here's a little extra caffeine in advance appreciation of what you're doing. When you invest in the bank of goodwill, when those fires do start, which they do, you all of a sudden have a team and not individuals being like, where's the event person? The other thing that I've seen from my own staff or partners, and I had to have one of them tell me, because I'm a little bit more like Alysse. I love the energy of day up. I don't get nervous about it. I get excited. That's not everyone. And so one of the people on my team said, assign me a role. If I know what I'm supposed to be doing, so greeting people at the door, taking the coach, directing them to here or there, I feel empowered. If I don't, and I'm waiting for you to tell me, I feel small. And it was some of the best feedback I would have never thought to ask for. So I think those are really clear. And whenever something does flare up within that space, it's getting fewer people to solve it instead of the rush of everybody trying to get in there. So that becomes air traffic control. I mean, like, okay, I need you all doing this, almost like thirds. Because in the moment when stress and anxiety come up, the brain goes into hyper-focus mode. Think of like monosyllabic directions instead of let's stop and have a feelings check. But with that, other people need the clarity of what do I do now? And so I almost try to look at it in that this, and this, so that you can put people in those quick budgets. You all manage to the audience, you all go backstage, and Alysse and I are on this. If we put names to the situation, then people know it's being covered.
Those are such great tips to keep your team, connected during chaotic moments. So I love those.
I love them too.
And if you ever look at emergency responders or first on the scene, that's exactly what they do. They put names to actions. These two are doing this, these two are doing this. And it comes from that understanding of having the roles gives clarity and focus versus people in the event space and the attendees are natural helpers. So everybody's going to rush to do the one thing. And then you're managing the people and not the situation.
Okay, I promised this at the beginning of the episode, and so I've got to come back to it, but I need to hit event crimes and misdemeanors, Kristen. This is one of my favorite segments that we don't typically get to do, but you opted in. You're the lucky one.
Okay, talk to me.
Tell me
Where do
an
we
event
go?
crime you've witnessed or committed, either or, that still haunts you or makes you laugh.
So I spent a long time in .com, and there was a period where a lot of events would happen in the corporate office. A lot of people have done that. And while there are many things that you can control in the space, like where's the food being set up, where's the exits, et cetera, there's a lot of nooks and crannies that people can find themselves in. And with an abundance of alcohol, I had a situation where after a big holiday event, the next morning I had to be reviewing security tapes from the garage to help identify individuals who were using the parking garage as a hotel.
Oh.
Love
is in the air. Everywhere I look around. In the security cameras.
And then take that up to our CFO. And
mortifying.
he was like, no, I'll just take your word for it. Yeah.
Mortifying for everyone involved.
Some more than others. What seems like a good idea at the time never really translates to the black and white security screen. That is your public service announcement. The more you know.
Oh my God.
I'm personally now flashing back to a parking garage moment that I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
Please know I'm not passing judgment on parking lots.
It was the 90s. They didn't have security cameras back then, right?
No. Sure. Here's my this on that. These days, just assume everything is recorded.
True.
And I tell that to my adult adjacent children, and I'm just like, just know that this is going to live forever. But especially on those elements. And then like both of you, I've done huge events in Vegas. And I'm like, how did you not think that in every way was on tape? Like, it's actually Vegas. So what happens in Vegas stays on the cloud. That is the new marketing strategy.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, y'all.
What happens in Vegas stays in the cloud. I love that.
It's so true. On a less nefarious note, I did have a major anxiety attack trying to get to an event in India where the cows just took over the road, and you cannot reason with cows. And so when I showed up to the event, of which I was the core presenter, probably 20 minutes late, and I walked in, and especially as a female in this capacity, and I said, I just started to say, and then cows, the entire group was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, see? They knew.
And all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, so you understand.
Yeah.
Well, so the cow stress, everybody was like, oh, right. Yes.
Of course.
Go on.
Probably also limited because culturally cows are
sacred.
Yeah. So you can't, I mean, I'm from a farm town, so you could just like honk at them and like, maybe go like poke them on the buns, but
to
make a move, but you don't want to do that. Yeah.
Poke on the buns.
No, yes, I hear you. And so I hear you on your cow courtesy. I will tell you in this situation, it's that the cows don't give
They don't care.
a poop emoji.
Well, they're the boss.
They don't give a gallon of milk. They're just like,
I see what you did there.
You.
They don't.
No, it's not even, you could honk all day. I mean, I don't think you can travel in India without honking. It's just kind of part of it. But the cows were just like, whatevs.
They're used to it.
It was just more how the entire event was like, yes, of course, obviously, we're fine. So that was, you know how you're so stressed when something's not, and then you see a cultural, I think doing events in different countries absolutely helps you appreciate a whole different scenario of what a privilege. What a privilege. Here's another thing I'll tell you too from back to the .com days of when you would throw this amazing big event, all this swag. Can you please explain to me why people will take swag like they're going to make money off of it?
It's wild. Even just like plain old pens. You're like, that's just a pen that's a plain old Bic stick pen with a logo on it. What are you going to do with 45 pens?
We turn into an episode of Hoarders, and I do not understand it. I mean, it's like I was working at a time where they had, oh my gosh, all the free sodas, all the free snacks, like it just in the general thing, ping pong tables. It was the heyday of .com. And I'm like, y'all are paid fine. What is going on? But we had this summer event, beach balls, all the things. And we had flip-flops. You can imagine how economically made these flip-flops were.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you maybe get one or two wears out of it. It's kind of like when you get a pedicure. Like, you're lucky they last.
There were little foam ones.
People were coming up. I always love this, with their t-shirts and then putting more swag in their t-shirts. It's like, but the best part was we ran out of sizes. And then I had a whole thing over here, which was the extra swag. There were just left shoes, just a single shoe. And people were still taking a free left shoe. So, but if you want to go back to brain psychology, the mob mentality of if one is good, 17 is better. So, which is why swag, I'm a big back to first class, either go big or go home on swag. Do not. And then also with that though, I had one situation where the next day I came in to all of the feedback is a gift. Let's have a section of this. I think actually you should have a whole panel on feedback as a gift and why you should keep the receipt. Future episode.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
With a very helpful employee who wrote a top 10 list of things that could be improved down to the dinner roll selection and sent it not to me as the vice president at that time, but to the CEO with me copied. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I really hope the CEO laughed at that they got this direct email
about dinner rolls.
Yeah, probably and more right shoes next time. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I do want to throw in, for those of you that have not listened to the episode we did with Carrie Ann, who we met through Kristen, it is a great episode on managing event swag. There's some real good nuggets of information in that episode. You'll have to go back and look into our archives. It was earlier on in the season.
She's brilliant. Yep. One of the things I learned from her, if I may, is how modern events having space, not just time on the agenda space, but space for optionality, whether it's the introverts to go take some time or those of us who need to go and actually check our email. When you acknowledge that humans are coming to your event and they're not going to be sitting there in rapt attention for X number of hours, that actually, when we treat each other like adults, and then Carrie Ann will go and hold optional wellness activities, either for box breathing, sound baths, yoga, meditation. And I am always watching how many people flock to that. So do not overlook space and mental well-being as part of your agenda. People will absolutely internalize that as a fantastic event. And that's not something this hard charging Gen Xer would have thought of.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think too, especially if you're planning an event, that's a conference, whether it's a day long or multiple days, I mean, it is unrealistic to expect that people are not going to check their email during that event. So if you give people a designated time and they know, okay, I'm going to have 30 minutes where I can do a sound bath or I can check my email, like they're going to be more inclined to actually pay attention and really be engaged with whatever programming you have planned, because they know they're going to be able to tackle this at a different time.
So well said.
Clarity is kind. Let's make t-shirts.
It's kind to them and it's kind to yourself. T-shirts. You can set everyone up for success. I love that, by being realistic about humans and human behavior and what to expect from people and, how to make it a good experience for everybody.
Well, and let's put some tactics to that affirmation. So when you do list break times, you better stop at the break time. I know it's one of the things that
can't go long
for all of us behind the scenes who are doing the countdowns and the rest of it. But if you are promising people that time will be held, give it to them. Same with lunch or food, because you've got all sorts of different, probably time zones who are attending, but chronobiological humans who have actual needs for the food. But here's the other thing I want to give you as the brain science nerd. The food ties to attention spans. And so if you're trying to squeeze in one more thing before lunch, one more thing, I guarantee you nobody's actually going to give it their full attention or retain it later. That is the challenge I see with a lot of events, because we are trying to manage the individuals on the agenda and not the individuals in the audience. Mm-hmm. On that note, if you are having speakers or panels, if you're having content of more than 20 minutes, it better be stellar. It better be high energy, multimedia. Any individual talking for more than 20 minutes, the brain naturally, no matter how well fed and caffeinated, starts to dip in attention after every 20 minutes. And you add on the different dynamics of that, and you put a 3 p.m. speaker talking about finance for an hour, you may have people in chairs or in boxes on the screen. You do not have their attention. Mm-hmm. And the majority of people on a short-term memory will lose about 70% within 24 hours of content. That's the reality of our attention economy these days. Oh. Much better to give them short bursts with oxygen breaks in between. And there's a difference between the 5-minute stretch, and I mean that whether it's physically or just on a screen like this. And if you're going to have a true break, 20 minutes is about the minimum to get people to go to restrooms, to coffee stations, to wherever. Don't cut into that because you're playing politics on your agenda.
Whew, this has been a great episode. Kristen, you have reminded us that events are not just logistics. They're laboratories for human behavior.
Well, and brain science really can be the bridge between chaos and clarity. and doing fewer things better is the new event mantra, people.
That's right. And thank you for helping us see that attention is not just about eyes on stage. It's about hearts and humans in the room.
That's a wrap.
Love it.
For this episode of Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events. If you've got an idea or want to reach out, email us at info@beatsworking.show. Remember that every detail matters, every moment counts, and no matter what, the show must go on.
Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we explore what it takes to make moments unforgettable.
If you're leaving with a little more inspiration, a little more perspective, and a big side ache from all of the laughing at our funny jokes, then we've done our job.
Beats Working is a Work P2P production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platforms.
Your support helps us keep the magic going.